You're listening to the following on podcast from TalkSport. I'm Neil Manthorpe, and we'll be joined by the former England fast bowler Steve Harmison and New Zealand cricket commentator Dan McHardy to look back at day 2 of the first test between New Zealand and England at Mount Maunganui at the Bay Oval, with England closing on 79 for 2, a lead of 98 runs after they earlier bowled the hosts out for 306 in reply to their own 325 for 9. We'll get exclusive reaction from both camps, discuss the brilliance of Tom Blundell and his 138, and we'll look ahead to a crucial third day of the Test match. So plenty to come over the next 20 minutes or so. You're listening to the following on podcast. New Zealand resumed today on 37 for 3 after a torrid final session on day 1, replying to England's 325 for 9, and they gritted it out. They lost wickets at regular intervals through the first session and halfway through the second session, and were in more than a spot of bother at 83 for 5, even 158 for 6. But Tom Blundell, the wicketkeeper who came in at number 7, having been scheduled to come in at number 6, went on to complete a 4th Test century, a second against England, a second at home in New Zealand, finishing with a quite brilliant 138 to take his team from the perils of 182 for 7 to a total of 306 all out. He was given support at the other end. Opener Devon Conway made a fine 77, but I think we're going to hear we'll interrupt that summary. No, we won't. We'll carry on. We're waiting for a reaction from both camps, but let me just carry on with that summary. There was some fine performance from Devon Conway with 77. Scott Kugelheim on debut made 20, but really it was all about Tom Blundell with his 138 from 181 balls with 19 fours and a 6. In the end, the deficit, which England would have thought would have been well over 100 for most of that innings, in the end it was just 19, England's lead. They did lose Ben Duckett for 25 and fellow opener Zach Crawley for 28 in their second innings, but not before an opening partnership of 52. And Ollie Pope and Stuart Broad, the Nighthawk, took them through to the close. Pope on 14, Broad on 6. He was dropped before he'd scored. And England, I think, will be well pleased on a roller coaster day in which their advantage was snatched away by Blundell, who went through the gears beautifully and was smashing it at the end in the company of last man Blair Tickner, who came to the crease when he was on 96. In the end, Steve Harmison, England will be satisfied with their day's work, but work it was, and they didn't have things their own way.
No, they didn't have it all their own way. They did at times. There were some wickets that New Zealand give England. England went... They had a simple plan. They went, obviously, when they were going full. They were aggressive with their fields, aggressive into the off stump length, and then when there was a couple of boundaries and the ball started to sort of leak a few runs, Ben Stokes was quick to go to the plan B, which was the short ball route, men on the boundary, and really testing the New Zealand players out. And in that, I think there were some mistakes from New Zealand, and there was also some good bowling from England.
Ollie Robinson took 4 for 54. Let's hear from him now. He's with Sam Ellard.
Thank you very much, Neil. Ollie, another busy, crazy, hectic day of Test cricket. What did you make of it?
Yeah, it was a busy afternoon, wasn't it? We felt like this morning it nipped around a bit, but as soon as the ball got sort of 40, 50 overs old, it's got a bit slower and got a bit harder to beat the bat. Tom obviously batted really well, which put them back in the game, and it's pretty all square going into tomorrow.
Yeah, how frustrating was that, though, to have them 80 for 5 and just sort of allow them to get back into it second inning? Because, to be fair, Tom played well, but the tail as well also really hung in there and made it hard work for you and the boys.
Yeah, they did. We threw everything at them, really. We bowled bumpers, spin, we tried cutters, we tried everything, really. I think with the pink ball that can happen, though. It can go flat and it can go slow. You can't really shine them and keep them swinging, so that phase of the game can happen. But hopefully we can come back tomorrow, pile on the runs and bowl them out again.
And just for you on a personal note, 4 more wickets today. You're averaging just above 20, I think, in Test cricket, which isn't bad, is it? How pleased are you with your form, especially since coming back into the team at the back end of the summer?
Yeah, it's been really pleasing. Obviously, we all know the issues that I had last year. It's nice to come back into the team and put the performances in and get the wickets for the boys. And the environment at the moment is just so good, so great to be a part of.
And you're obviously bowling today with Anderson and Broad. Do you know why today was a special day for them?
1,000 wickets, was it?
1,000 wickets between them. Just how good is it learning and watching those two at their absolute peak?
Yeah, amazing. I've played probably a little bit more with Jimmy, but to play with both of them on the same pitch is just amazing. I really enjoy playing with both of them, and I think you can see we're all having a great time out there.
We know it's tough under the lights. England 2 down and lead just short of 100. Firstly, what did you make of that sort of last hour and a half of play, and how do you see day 3 going?
I thought our boys were top drawer there. I think we bowled at them last night, and they were very defensive. They sort of sitting ducks. I think the way we played tonight shows sort of the manner in which we want to play, and it was pretty impressive.
And just one last real quick one. I had the pleasure today of meeting your dad, and I knew he was your dad because he had a shirt on with your face all over it. Okay, that's proper commitment, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I asked him not to wear it, but you know, he's gone for it. So
he's proud of you.
Yeah, he's biggest fan, isn't he?
Ollie, well done. We'll see you tomorrow.
Cheers, thank you.
Take care, well done.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Oh, well, my goodness me. If your dad turns up is one thing, but if he's wearing a t-shirt with your face on it. But he was brilliant, Ollie Robinson, and Sam didn't ask him there about how he was feeling fitness-wise, because he did look to be struggling a bit, didn't he? I mean, and he bowled through obvious discomfort.
Yeah, he did look as though he struggled. I just wonder if it was a little bit of a sort of back stiffness, and sometimes when you have that sort of back stiffness, it actually helps you as a bowler, because you then just concentrate on just getting to the crease, holding your action, and try and putting the ball in a good area. You don't try and sort of go too hard, or you try and bowl too fast, or so sometimes it can just help. And I think because of the softness of the outfield, the hardness of the wicket, I think that's probably contributed to what is. We know that Ollie Robinson's had a few back issues, so I don't think there's any structural damage with that. I think it's just natural stiffness because of the surfaces that he's playing on. But sometimes it can help having that, because you're not trying to sort of really over push yourself. You're just trying to sort of get to the crease, hold your action up, let go of the ball in a good area. And to be fair to him, he did that perfectly today. The only time it did look as though there was any he was hampered was actually in the field when he was chasing a ball, or when he had to dive for the ball or anything like that. But from a bowling point of view, his speeds were up, his lengths were good, he was aggressive in and around that off stump. He went to the bouncer as well. So fair play to Ollie. I think I'm really. I can't praise the kid high enough. I was critical at the end of the Ashes. I really was. Joan Lewis, the way he spoke about it, his professionalism at the end of it, I think there was a lot of people critical of him. It takes a big man, it really does take a big man to stand up, admit you're not going in the right direction, and not only put it right, come back actually better than what you were. Fair play to Ollie Robinson.
Just as we wait to hear from Tom Blundell, who's the hero of the day, let's have a quick look at the other bowling figures. Jimmy Anderson, 3 for 36, a mark of the genius that we just take that for granted. He's taken 3 wickets at 12, 3 for 36, quite magnificent. 1 for Stuart Broad, and a word as well for the captain Ben Stokes, who set the leg side bouncer field. And when a wicket was really needed, he did the dirty work himself. Something needed to happen, and he got rid of Devon Conway.
He did. He had a word, as you said to me at the break. He might need Ben Stokes to have a word with his knees here and see if they're okay to come and try and break that partnership. And he did that with the wicket of Devon Conway, and that started the sort of floodgates opening a little bit. And Brodie was more expensive for what Stuart Broad does, but if you remember right, he got hit for 2 sixes off Neil Wagner. He got hit for 3 fours in his first over. 2 of them, if Jack Leach had been in the right position on the boundary, would have been 1s instead of 4s. And Stuart will look at that as well and take that into consideration. I just thought that was a very, very well drilled team. Bowl with a good discipline, bowl with a good plan for 9 wickets on that wicket, which Ollie Robinson said sometimes it does go a bit flat and it does go a bit slow, and I wouldn't blame them for the last wicket partnership. I just thought it was fantastic batting by Tom Blundell.
1 wicket for Stokes, 1 wicket for Jack Leach as well, and we're just moments away. I think Sam Ellard is about to speak to Tom Blundell. But the wicket for Jack Leach was also very, very special and very, very good captaincy from Ben Stokes. We'll come back to that in a moment. Here's Sam Ellard with man of the moment, Tom Blundell.
Tom, I got to say, I think us English fans are sick of the sight of you. Every time we play against us, you seem to score runs. Just sum up how that was out there for you today. Well played. Very good innings.
Yeah, it was nice. It's always nice to contribute, especially against England as well. I've done it before, and it's always nice to sort of continue that on.
And you had to spend a lot of the innings batting with the tail, with a big first innings deficit still to make up. How did you find trying to sort of hold the innings together? And to be fair to some of the guys lower down the order, they did their bit, didn't they? They hung in there with you.
Yeah, they did. The tail sort of wagged, which was nice. Scott Kugelheim, the way he came out in bed and started off hitting those two nice boundaries, and then obviously Tix at the end, sort of helped me through it, which was nice. So, kudos to those guys.
What did you make of conditions out there?
Yeah, the wicket's good. The ball didn't probably swing as much tonight as we probably wanted, but I think the pitch is pretty good. Overall, good for batting. So hopefully tomorrow we can pick up an early wickets and put them under the pump.
And we saw England very good with the ball late last night. What did you make of conditions late this evening, and how do you think you guys bowled there in that sort of last hour and a half to England? Yeah,
I thought we brought it back quite well. Obviously they got off to a good start, and I think to get a couple of wickets should have been 3. But to get those couple early was nice, and I think we take a bit of momentum going tomorrow.
What did you make of Stuart Broad there, the Nighthawk we call him at the end there? Have you ever seen anything like that before? We keep thinking England won't surprise us with new things they try and do, but a bowler coming in at the end trying to smack the ball for 6 is still pretty special, isn't it, to see?
Yeah, it is. I think it's an interesting approach. I've never seen a night watchman dance down the wicket first or second ball, so kudos to him, and hopefully we can get him out tomorrow morning.
Yeah, just that catch there in the air, was it just one of those ones where just lack of communication? That would have been the icing on the cake, wouldn't it, for you, for a perfect day?
Yeah, it would have been nice. Sometimes that sort of happens, but you sort of got to move on, and it looks pretty funny on TV, but yeah, no, it's just one of those things.
And what's the key tomorrow, bowling to England, to try and take these 8 wickets as quickly as possible?
Yeah, I think it's just wickets early. Obviously the wicket's pretty good to bat on. If we can sort of maintain their sort of run rate throughout and keep them getting wickets, who knows. But obviously they're a very good batting side, and the way they're playing the cricket is pretty impressive.
And we'll leave the final word on your 138 here in New Zealand. A special crowd here. Just sum up your emotions on a pretty special day after a very, very impressive innings.
Yeah, no, I'm just pleased, very, very happy. It probably hasn't sunk in yet, but to get a chance to represent New Zealand at any stage, it's always, I guess, memorable, and to score 100 was really nice. So I'll definitely savour this one for a long time to come.
Sink in this evening after a nice cold one?
Oh, definitely, I think so. Yeah.
Well played.
Cheers, mate. Thanks.
Take care.
Exhausting day for Tom Blundell with the bat and then behind the stumps, and he thought it was all over when stumps were called, and he didn't realise he was going to be interviewed by the whirlwind Sam Ellard. His day's work wasn't over.
Yeah, he's had a long day, and his day got a little bit longer there with the excitable Sam Ellard, and again another a great day, but it was a nice interview. It was an interview that was spoke from the heart, and somebody who not only you representing your country, but it means something when you do something special. And I know you get interviewed at the end of a game, but to have the 100 and to keep your team in the game when things haven't gone, everything hasn't really gone for New Zealand. I think that was it was a special innings by Tom Blundell.
Indeed it was. So England leading by 97. It would have been a lot more than that had Blundell not batted as well as he did. And we were talking about the smaller contributions that don't necessarily make the following on podcast and the match reports in the newspapers. The fact that Jack Leach took 1 wicket and that Ben Stokes took a vital wicket, that of Devon Conway. Tom Blundell, quite rightly, will dominate the headlines, and he will be the story. But a little word as well to number 11, Blair Tickner, who came out with Blundell not having reached 3 figures. He was on 96, and he looked a little ropey, a little nervous, not for himself but for his partner initially. But he got through that. It took him 16 balls to get off the mark. He did his job, and he hung around there because New Zealand was still over 50 runs behind when Blundell did get to his 50, and Tickner hung in there. Blundell played magnificently and reduced the deficit to 19. Dan McHardy was watching, was commentating with us, And overall, despite the deficit, which may or may not be of consequence, Dan, it's been a day of real, slightly old-fashioned toil compared to England for New Zealand, but they've, I don't know, would you give them the day?
Ooh, I think it's tight as far as, giving the day decided there. How about this? You love your long-distance running. Let's look at this as a 5k race. They've spotted England quite a start on day number 1, and they needed a Sir Murray Halberg type surge to get back into it, and through two and a bit sessions they kind of did. They got it back to level pegging.
They lost it in the last hour, didn't
and then, do you know what the difference has been? New ball bowling, essentially. Let's look at the 2 periods under lights. New Zealand last night, 37 for the loss of 3 in 18 overs. England was so disciplined. They were threatening. To quote Devon Conway, who I spoke to prior to today's play, they were different gravy, whatever that means. But they just didn't give me anything. He played well within himself late last night. He just clearly wanted to survive. England weren't out there to survive here on day number 2. They were out to be forceful once more. And they were presented with opportunities. And look, they've scored 79 runs for the loss of 2 in 16 overs. So that's scoring it twice as much as New Zealand were in the conditions which have been favourable. As you would expect, on day number 2, probably not going to be as much, even under the lights, there was not. So there was an onus on New Zealand's new ball bowlers to get it right. Unfortunately, Tim Southee aside, that they haven't quite got it right, have they? Neil Wagner, who spent most of his life bowling first change with the new ball, has struggled in both innings, taken off after 2 overs. That's not by design, as it matters. New Zealand really do. I think Matt Henry would have been excellent in these conditions. He's a bit like Robinson and Anderson with that ability to present the full seam and hit the seam and get it to go both ways. And I'm going to say it to myself, it would have been nice if they made a phone call to Trent Boult. I think he would have gone all right here. So I think that's the chasm between the two sides, is that of, with this pink ball, we know it doesn't swing for long periods of time. We saw it at the start of today when England, they looked far less threatening at the start of today. So they're the two sort of periods within the game where I think England have been able to separate themselves from New Zealand at this stage. But credit to Devon Conway and Tom Blundell. They played really, really well. Without them, New Zealand would be pulling a DNF. It would be in a 5,000k race, wouldn't it, without those two?
Did not finish, indeed. Now, if the pitch bats as well on the third morning as it did on the second morning, and indeed up until the supper break on the second day, if it continues to play well, there will be a little bit of up and down bounce, but not pronounced, I don't think, on
not
day
yet.
3. Somebody's going to have to step up, because England are going to score a minimum of 100 runs a session. They're already leading by almost 100. Somebody's going to have to step up. Tim Southee can't bowl 12 overs in the morning session or the afternoon session. Somebody's going to have to really step up. There are 2 debutants. Michael Bracewell's only been bowling off spin for a couple of years. If New Zealand, they need early wickets. Now, we heard from Tom Blundell. He said that himself. I mean, which team doesn't say they need early wickets on any day of a Test match? But Tickner and Scott Kuggeleijn, which one of them is going to produce a career-defining performance on debut?
Kuggeleijn is by nature an erratic cricketer. He could have that day if there was one I feel more confidence in. Tickner looked more at ease here on day number 2. I felt there was a little bit more rhythm. He's got duck it out now twice, and the second one's a good mode of dismissal, bowling a slightly fuller length than we've seen on day number 1, threatening that outside edge. Good catch by Latham at second slip. He also looked like he was bowling a little bit quicker. We saw in the low 140s from Tickner, so that shows to me he's a lot more rhythm. So I would have faith, maybe more so than Kuggeleijn, but the man I'm looking to is Neil Wagner. Can he reinvent himself again like he did in the first innings after a woeful start? He picked up 4 wickets. You don't ever exclude him from the equation. I know he's 36 years of age, and Jarrod Kimber explained to us how he's reinvented himself over and over again. He's bowling more along the wicket, trying to swing the ball later in his career. But someone has to provide support for Tim Southee. You're right about Bracewell. Bracewell has to do it. I thought Jack Leach did a very good job for England, allowing the seamers some time to rest and attack in short spells. Anderson bowled 4 overs, then was off for 3 hours. That's because Leach did his job, bowled one side of the wicket, dried up the run, so Bracewell will have an important part to play. But I think you're being generous saying England at a minimum will have 100 runs each session. They went at 140 on day number one. You add 200
I said minimum.
Yeah, if you add 280 to the lead, they're in a position at dinner. Sorry, I still can't get my head around the second break. What's it called? That they're in a position where Stokes and McCullum talk about declaring with 15 overs to go tomorrow night. And I think that's a distinct possibility with New Zealand asked to chase around 420. It just seems in their nature to think about, let's just have another cracker under the lights with Anderson, Robinson and Broad, who, I again will use that phrase Devon Conway gave me, a different gravy.
I think it comes from the Caribbean originally, doesn't it? And the spicy gravy is the one they refer to as the different gravy. Ollie Robinson was terrific. James Anderson was wonderful, magnificent. He was just James Anderson. And as I said earlier, there was a wicket each, important wickets as well for Jack Leach and the captain Ben Stokes. But I think the final word has to go to Tom Blundell. Tell us a little bit more about the character of the man. He's not over the top, is he? I mean,
no.
He's very within himself, on and off the field. It seems quite perfectly in control of his emotions. But that was a special innings.
He's in control of his emotions because he's played a lot of cricket. He's had to wait for his opportunity behind BJ Watling, who was a wonderful servant for New Zealand cricket. When Watling got injured, which was almost never, he came into the Test side, batting at number 8 against the West Indies in 2017, scores 100 on debut at his home ground at the Basin Reserve, and then just to show the character of the man, walked home in his whites at the end of that Test match with a little wicket memento after that innings victory sort of tucked away in his bag. Played 2 tests, then had to wait 2 more years. And guess what? He's dropped into the cauldron of playing a Boxing Day Test in Melbourne as an opener. Scores 100 in the second innings. He's a very malleable player. He's old-fashioned, very, very well organised. Very good against the quicker bowlers with the cut and the pull, and we saw that when England went to the short pitch approach. Some beautiful pulls and hooks. Hitting down the ball on the ball, classical sort of strokes. He sort of wags the shoulder like he's a la MD Crow, who's probably looking down, nodding from the skies. There's a real element to Crow about some of those pull shots and the way he uses his feet to the spinners. He's very light on his feet and came down the wicket and hit beautifully over the top, over extra cover, long off against Leach. So 400s now, averaging in the mid-40s as a Test player. Today he got 138 runs of the 223 New Zealand scored, and that was mightily impressive. Getting to 100, he got a bit loose after that, chasing some runs, a little bit more agricultural, we might say, but what a vastly important 59-run partnership between he and Tickner gave New Zealand, gave that little surge and closed the gap. But I detected quite a bit of disappointment in his voice speaking to Sam there. Not because he's speaking to Sam, but just the way they've sort of let that lead slip out again. And they're chasing again.
I likened him to an accountant initially, the way he built his innings, and he was very systematic. And then he turned
numbers, very pretty numbers.
He turned from accountant into a surgeon, and then more of a butcher towards the end, didn't he?
He did, but he's very pleasant on the eye. Lovely man. Great week for him and his family, welcoming a second child. This will be a week he will remember. It was a very good knock and has kept New Zealand in this game.
Well, you can follow another series of the Border Gavaskar Trophy in India, as that is also being carried live, ball by ball, on TalkSport 2, and you can keep up to date with that. You can catch up with most of each day after the day's play has finished here in the first Test match at the Bay Oval in Mount Maunganui. Just to recap, England 325 for 9 declared on the first day. New Zealand were bowled out today on day 2 for 306, and England managed to get through the last hour largely unscathed. They did lose both openers, but not before a half-century opening partnership. Crawley going for 28 and Ben Duckett for 25. Ollie Pope and the Nighthawk Stuart Broad will resume on the third morning with England on 78 for 2. That is an overall lead of 97 from Neil Manthorpe, John Norman, Steve Harmison, Dan McHardy, and the rest of the team from Mount Maunganui. This has been the Cricket Collective on TalkSport 2 from day 2. Here's Broad then, first delivery of the morning, and it's over-pitched and it's whipped away for 4 by Devon Conway.
Head high and a towering blow that sails high over the rope into the marquee. A huge 6 from Wagner. Going to spoon the next one straight to mid-on and be caught. Well, after all of that, they've gone full, maybe a slower ball as well, and Wagner is a long way through the shot and a very easy catch.
Ollie Robinson has got the breakthrough. Daryl Mitchell has been deceived. He's been wrapped on the pads. Alim Dar's fingers gone up.
Broden Anderson for England has got 1,000 wickets between them.
And forward comes Conway, driving, big gap in the offside. He will move to his half century. He's holding things together.
Conway comes down the wicket and launches him high over the bowler's head. Into the crowd, maybe 5 metres beyond the white picket fence.
That will be that for the session. 138 for 5 then New Zealand starting the session 37 for 3. They've added 101 runs.
The first over after the drinks break, the first ball is driven very sweetly indeed by Devon Conway through the offside to the cover boundary for 4. Conway has pulled it straight to square leg. Stokes has done it. The bouncer strategy has worked.
Here's Blundell pulling from outside of off stump, backward a square down to the fence for 4. That is a quite beautiful stroke.
And a catch it is! It's gone straight to Ben Stokes, and Jack Leach does take the wicket of Michael Bracewell.
And as Blundell gets whipped outside of off stump and a delicious, delicate late cut down towards the third man rope for 4.
The applause is for a very fine half century from Tom Blundell. And he's made full use of the gearbox.
And the revolutions, and that is a mighty swing of the bat, and what a way to hit your first boundary, and is caught in the caught by a spectator as well. As he's bowled him, Ollie Robinson pitches one up. Kugelheim tries to play across the line, and Robinson strikes. The players are making their way from the field. That wicket really denting New Zealand. I think if they'd managed to get through just 7 down, they would have fancied their chances.
Down the wicket he comes. He's got to the pitch of it. He's launched it over long on onto the grass banks for 6. That's very, very well played.
Advancing Blundell, who just baseballs him straight over second base down to the fence for 4.
Plays a little lap sweep. This will be his 100. A couple of thousand people on their feet on the grass banks applauding what they know, whichever team they're supporting, has been a very, very fine innings.
Anderson again, Fuller down the leg side and clipped away for 4. The deficit down to 90, down the track, and Blundell's innings may be about to come to an end, but he's also brought his side back into this match.
This one short, punished with disdain through wideish mid-on. Gee, was onto that quickly, Crawley. That is a glorious cover drive, one of the very best you will see. Leans into it, not a full press forward. It hits the ball on the up.
And there's an edge and caught. It's Duckett who's got the edge. It's Tickner who's struck, and England lose their first wicket.
Oh, Kugelheim in, Crawley pulls, gets an edge, it's taken behind, and New Zealand have the second wicket. Top edged it straight up into the air. Underneath it is Kugelheim himself. Oh, he's left it! Oh my goodness me, Kugelheim and keeper Tom Blundell left it for each other. 79 for 2 England in their second innings. The first innings lead of 19, that puts them 98 runs ahead.